In Monster Hunter World, there are many aspects to consider when taking on a hunt. The target, your weapon, these are all important, but hunters who want optimal performance need to consider the build they use via the gear and armour they wear. I'm Darcblade, and here are the builds that I use for the Insect Glaive. The skills that you can gain from armour and even some weapons can help shape your hunter into specialised hunter machines. With the Insect Glaive, again a lot of these are DPS focused. However, the Insect Glaive inherently has defensive options thanks to its innate ability to evade via airborne moves. The builds I tend to use mainly focus on these aspects. However, the Insect Glaive is also a weapon that is reliant on stamina at times, so the builds also take this into account. Lastly, when it comes to the Kinsect, thanks to the Kinsect buffs you can get, the Insect Glaive is a weapon that benefits from skills like Power Prolonger, meaning that you don't have to constantly reapply the buffs. Speaking of which, in this video I won't be going over specific Kinsects, as at the end of the day most of them are down to personal preference. Yes, some Kinsects can aid a build by providing extra elemental damage, element build-up, or even survivability. But for the purpose of this video, I'll be just going over the gear for the builds I use for the Insect Glaive. Now the first build I use is the Elementless build. This is a straightforward Elementless DPS focused build, utilising the Darcblade 2, which is the Diablos Insect Glaive. So for this build you'll need the Draken Armet Alpha, Kushala Kista Beta, the Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha, and the Draken Greaves Alpha. I'm also using an Exploited Charm 2, and for my weapon, as I mentioned, I'm using the Darcblade 2. This has 2 affinity increase augmentations on it. When it comes to the Kinsect, it doesn't really matter what you use. As for your jewels, well, the main mandatory one would be a Elementless jewel to boost the power of weapons who have their elements hidden. Afterwards, I've added Handicraft jewels to get Handicraft to at least rank 4, which will allow the weapon to gain a sliver of white sharpness. I've then gone for an Attack jewel to put attack boost to level 4, so it gives you that extra 5% affinity. I've then gone for a Sharp jewel to allow me to keep that sliver of white sharpness thanks to the protective polish it provides. And then I've gone for a Tenderizer jewel to max out weakness exploit, and an Enhancer jewel to provide a little bit of extra power prolonger. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 868 attack, white sharpness, 5% affinity, which will actually be 55% should you be going for weak points. You also have a stamina boost Kinsect bonus, and when it comes to your defense, you're strong against thunder and especially dragon, but relatively weak to fire and water. As for the skills, you have the following: attack boost level 4, you always want to get attack boost to level 4 so you get that 5% extra affinity, critical eye level 4, Handicraft level 4, as I mentioned again, you want to get to at least level 4 when using the Diablos weapons to allow you to get to that white sharpness. Weakness exploit level 3, which increases your affinity when attacking weak points. Crit boost level 2, which increases the damage of critical attacks. Now you can get this to level 3 if you were willing to drop the Enhancer jewel, but as this build doesn't have a naturally high affinity, I went with the Enhancer jewel, which provides us Power Prolonger level 2, which allows us to keep our Kinsect buffs a little bit longer without having to reapply them. We then have Non-Elemental boost level 1, Airborne level 1, which increases the damage of airborne attacks, and Protective Polish level 1. You'll also have the Soul of the Dragon set bonuses, Elemental Airborne, which increases elemental damage when performing jumping attacks, doesn't really apply to this build, and you'll also have the Master's Touch, which prevents sharpness loss when you crit a monster. So Master's Touch combined with Protective Polish should hopefully allow you to keep that white sharpness for a decent amount of time before dropping into blue. Nonetheless, even with blue sharpness, this build is quite strong, as the Darcblade Glaive is one of the strongest Elementless Insect Glaives out there. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is reliant on taking down Behemoth and getting the Draken armor set. But as he's available on all systems now, it shouldn't be an issue. It is quite a shame in some respects. The Draken set feels like it is built for the Insect Glaive, and you will find that a lot of builds can simply get away with using the Draken set and perform very adequately. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Final Fantasy XIV build. As I was just saying, the Draken set feels like it has been built for the Insect Glaive. And that, coupled with the true Gabe Bulk, the Insect Glaive you get from the Behemoth fight, is a strong build. You don't really have to mix and match the set whatsoever. So this is a straightforward Final Fantasy XIV build. So for this build you'll need the Draken Armet Alpha, Draken Mel Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha, and the Draken Greaves Alpha. You also need a Handicraft Charm 3, and for the weapon, as I mentioned, I'm using the True Gay Bulg, which I hope I'm pronouncing right, that has an affinity increase augmentation on it. As for the Kinsect, I went with the Final Fantasy XIV Kinsect to complete the set. Now the customization for this set comes in the form of its jewels. It does have a lot of jewel slots, which can allow you to specialize the build. For the purpose of this demonstration though, I've gone for DPS focus. So I've added Tenderizer Jaws to give me weakness exploit, a critical jaw to max out crit boost, an enhancer jaw to provide some extra power prolonger, another attack jaw to get attack boost to at least level 4, and then I've added a handicraft jaw and a sharp jaw to allow me to keep the white sharpness of the weapon a little longer. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 673 attack, white sharpness, 60% affinity, which is actually 100% should you be going for weak points, 300 dragon rating with high elder seal, and you'll have the elemental boost kinsect bonus, which means that you should put a element on your kinsect. In the case of this build, dragon would probably be the best option. Anyway, as for your defenses, you'll have high defense, especially against dragon and thunder, but you're weak against the rest. When it comes to the skills though, you'll have critical eye at level 6, attack boost level 4, crit boost level 3, handicraft level 4, weakness exploit level 3, power prolonger level 2, airborne level 1, and protective polish level 1. You also have the Soul of the Dragon set bonus, which provides you with elemental airborne, which is actually useful for this build as it increases the dragon portion of your attacks when you perform jumping attacks, and you'll have the Master's Touch, which prevents sharpness loss when you crit a monster. Again though, as with the previous build, it is unfortunately reliant on taking down Behemoth or farming Behemoth enough so you can actually craft the related pieces of armor. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is a variation of the Elementless build. It's the ground Elementless build. This focuses on enhancing the Insect Glaive's capability of fighting whilst on the ground rather than while airborne. This is also the last build I will be showing off that actually utilizes the Draken armor set. The Draken armor set, whilst like I said it is good and viable pretty much with any build with the Insect Glaive, I wanted to spice it up so the builds after this one won't actually have the Draken armor set. But anyway, let's talk about the ground elemental build. So for this build you'll need the Nergigante Helm Beta, the Draken Mail Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha, Draken Greaves Alpha, and the Handicraft Charm 3. You'll also use the Tyrannus Glaive 2 with 2 affinity increase augmentations on it. As for your jaws, the main mandatory one again would be the Elementless jaw. You'll then want a handicraft jaw and a sharp jaw to allow you to keep that little bit of white sharpness for a little bit longer. You'll then also need an attack jaw to get to attack boost level 4, and then afterwards I've gone for tenderizer jaws and an expert jaw. Anyway, if you don't know what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 868 attack, white sharpness, 40% affinity, which is actually 90% should you be going for weak points, and you have maximum stamina. You'll also have the stamina boost kinsect bonus, which means that you can use whatever kinsect you wish, and you'll have a strong defense against dragon and thunder, but you're weak against the rest. As for the skills, you'll have Critical Eye level 7, Attack Boost level 4, Handicraft level 4, Weakness Exploit level 3, Critical Boost level 2, Maximum Might level 2, Power Prolonger level 1, Protective Polish level 1, and Non-Elemental Boost level 1. Maximum Might increases your affinity rating so long as you have maximum stamina, and whilst you're on the ground with the Insect Glaive, you shouldn't be using stamina. You'll also have the Draken set bonuses, the Elemental Airborne, which isn't really vital on this build, and the Master's Touch, which prevents sharpness loss so long as you crit a monster. And because the crit rating is a lot higher with this specific build, it means that you should keep that white sharpness for even longer. You just obviously sacrifice the airborne mobility and damage you get with the bog standard Elementless build. Now once again, unfortunately it is reliant on the Draken set, but when it comes to both this build and the Elementless build, you can swap out the Diablos weapon if you wish. Whilst yes, it has some of the highest raw attack in the game, you could swap it for other Elementless weapons if you would prefer not to contend with a negative base affinity. One suggestion would be the Doggeron Insect Glaive or the Taroth Glaive Claw, if you've been lucky enough to get one. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Affinity build. This utilizes the aforementioned Taroth Glaive Claw combined with the Teostra Gamma set pieces. This build has very high affinity regardless if you're attacking in the air or on the ground. Anyway, for this build you'll need the Kaiser Crown Gamma, the Kulftaroth's Ire Beta, Kaiser Vambraces Gamma, Kushala Cocoon Gamma, and the Kaiser Greaves Gamma. You'll also need an Exploited Charm too, and for my weapon, like I said, I'm using the Taroth Glaive Claw, which has an affinity increase augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice. I've gone with a slot upgrade. When it comes to the jaws, the main one you'll want to go for is a Elementless jaw to boost the attack power of the weapon, and then after I've gone for a combination of attack jaws, tenderizer jaws, crit jaws, and an enhancer jewel. You also should have a spare jewel left over, allowing you to use a jewel of your choice. I went with a vitality jewel. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 115 health, 100 stamina, 698 attack, white sharpness, 65% affinity, a speed boost Insect bonus, with strong defense against fire and thunder, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. You'll also have the following skills: Critical Eye level 7, Attack Boost level 4, Crit Boost level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Stun Resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear but it can still be useful, Handicraft level 2, Health Boost level 1, Power Prolonger level 1, and Non-Elemental Boost level 1. You'll also have the Teostra's Technique set bonus Master's Touch, preventing sharpness loss when you crit a monster. Now with the 65% base affinity combined with the weakness exploit, which puts it well over 100% should you be going for weak points, means that you shouldn't lose too much white sharpness when using this build. The main downside of this build, apart from obviously using pieces of the Teostra Gamma set as well as going for the Darcblade Claw, is unfortunately its reliance on attack jewels. Now if you don't have the amount of attack jewels I have in this build, then you're going to have to edit things up slightly. Personally, if I didn't have the amount of attack jewels I have in this build, I would swap out the Exploited Charm for a Handicraft Charm, and then swap out the Kushala Cocoon Gamma for the Nergigante Coil Beta. The Nergigante Coil Beta will provide you with a attack boost level 2, which means that you should only need 2 attack jewels. Okay, this means that you'll drop 2 points in weakness exploit, but with the Nergigante Coil Beta, you'll also have a jewel slot where you can put a Tenderizer jewel in, providing you with that weakness exploit at least level 2, which should still give you 100% when you're going for weak points. I know attack jewels are a pain in the butt to actually get in this game, but hopefully this alternative will allow you to create a similar build. Of course, also if you don't have the Darcblade Claw, you can use the box standard Adogaron weapon, which means that you don't actually have to worry about handicraft whatsoever, so you can replace the Kushala Cocoon with whatever you wish. But anyway, let's move away from the affinity build to talk about the elemental build. This build utilizes bog standard elemental weapons that don't have their element hidden and don't come with the built-in critical element skill. For the purpose of this video, I'll be demonstrating an ice insect glaive, so I'll be using the Diora's Tefidine. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's the Kushala Daora Insect Glaive. So for this build, you'll need the Kaiser Crown Gamma, the Rathalos Mel Beta, the Kaiser Vambraces Gamma, Azure Star-Lord Tasset's Alpha, and the Kaiser Greaves Gamma. You'll also need a Handicraft Charm 3, and as I mentioned, I'm using the Kushala Daora Insect Glaive with an Infinity Increase augmentation on it. You should also take advantage of a Kinsect that utilizes the Ice element as well. Anyway, as for the jewels, I've gone for Frost jewels to boost the frost value of the weapon. I've then added a Flight jewel to provide the airborne skill, increasing my attack while airborne. I've then gone for Enhancer jewels to provide power prolonger, a Tenderizer jewel to max out weakness exploit, and a Handicraft jewel to add a little bit of extra sharpness. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 605 attack, white sharpness, 50% affinity, which is actually 100% should you go for weak points, maxed out ice rating of 230 with a health boost Insect bonus. You'll also have strong defenses against fire and dragon, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. You also have the following skills: Critical Eye level 7, Handicraft level 5, Weakness Exploit level 3, Power Prolonger level 3, Ice Attack level 2. It would have been nice to get this higher, but unfortunately this weapon won't allow for that. You'll also have the Airborne skill level 1, and you'll have the set bonuses Teostra's Technique, Master's Touch, which prevents sharpness loss when you crit a monster, and you'll also have the Rathalos Mastery Critical Element, increasing the damage of the elemental portion of your attacks when you crit a monster. Now as you can see, this is pretty much a straightforward build, as it doesn't come with many skills, yet it utilizes 2 set bonuses. You can of course replace the Kushala Daora Insect Glaive with whatever weapon you want, so long as the element isn't actually hidden. Just remember, if you do so, to swap out the Frost jewels to whatever element you are using. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the free element elemental build. This build is very similar to the build we just talked about, however it utilizes the free element skill to allow you to bring out the full value of weapons who have their element hidden. Normally weapons that have a hidden element have very high elemental ratings. So for the purpose of this build, I'll be demonstrating a water build. So for this, you'll need the Xeno'jiiva Headgear Gamma, the Rathalos Mel Beta, the Kirin Long Arms Gamma, the Azure Star-Lord Tasset's Alpha, and the Kirin Leg Guards Beta. You also need a Handicraft Charm 3, and for the weapon, I'm using the Darcblade Water. This has an Infinity Increase augmentation on it. Again, with your Kinsect, you may want to consider making your Kinsect an elemental one. When it comes to the jaws, I've gone for stream jaws to boost the water rating of this build. I've then gone for a sharp jaw to allow me to keep the white sharpness for as long as possible, enhancer jaws to allow me to level up the power prolonger, and then I've gone for flight, tenderizer, and expert jaws. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 667 attack, white sharpness, 16% affinity, which is actually 66 should you be going for weak points, 460 water rating, with a elemental boost kinsect bonus, which is another reason why you should put an element on your kinsect with this build, and then you'll have strong defenses against thunder, but no glaring weaknesses. As for the skills, you'll have the following: handicraft level 4, blight resistance level 3, a byproduct of the gear, but nonetheless can be useful for when it comes to defense. You'll have water attack level 3, free element level 3, weakness exploit level 3, power prolonger level 3, critical eye level 3, airborne level 1, and protected polish level 1. You'll also have the Rathalos Mastery set bonus critical element, increasing the elemental portions of your attacks when you crit a monster. So as you can see, again, it is a straightforward elemental build, and it's not too difficult to craft. Just remember to take into account a monster's weakness when using any elemental build, whether it be this one or the previous one. Also remember, if you swap out the water weapon, to replace the stream jaws to whatever element you are using. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which I refer to as the balance build. This combines DPS and survivability to a build. Whilst it may not have the highest or most optimal DPS, it nonetheless also provides you with ailment options, as well as extra maneuverability and increases to your health. So for this build, you'll need the Kaiser Crown Gamma, the Empress Mel Beta, Kaiser Vambraces Gamma, Empress Coil Gamma, Kaiser Greaves Gamma, and the Attack Charm 3. I'm also using the Empress Cane Sticks, with an infinity increase augmentation on it. When it comes to the jewels, now this is a mixed bag here. The only main mandatory one I would say out of this bunch is the attack jewel to get your attack boost to at least level 4. Afterwards, go with jewels to increase your affinity via tenderizer jewels. I've also gone for blast jewels to boost the blast rating of this weapon, a flight jewel to provide the airborne skill, a handicraft jewel to increase the sharpness slightly, a vitality jewel to help with survivability, and a flawless jewel to max out peak performance, allowing for an increase in attack when your health is full. Anyway, if you don't know what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 150 stamina, 673 attack, white sharpness, 55% affinity, which is actually 100% when attacking weak points, 260 blast rating with a speed boost kinsect bonus, which means you can get away with using whatever kinsect you wish. And when it comes to defenses, you're strong against fire and thunder, but fairly weak to water and ice. When it comes to the skills, you have a bunch of them. First is critical eye level 7, attack boost level 4, health boost level 3, blast attack level 3, weakness exploit level 3, peak performance level 3, evade window level 2, which helps when it comes to dodging, handicraft level 1, airborne level 1, and you'll also have the razor sharp skill, which reduces sharpness loss by half. You'll also have the following set bonuses: the Teostra's Technique Master's Touch, preventing sharpness loss when you crit a monster. This, combined with Razor Sharp, means that you shouldn't have to really worry about sharpness loss whatsoever with this build. And you'll also have the Lunostra's Favor Stamina Cap Up set bonus, increasing your maximum stamina to 150. So as you can see, this is a nice balanced build that provides you both DPS and survivability. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is reliant on taking out everyone's favourite blue and red toasters, but nonetheless, this is personally one of my favourite builds for the Insect Glaive. Whilst yes, okay, you may not take down a monster as quick as you can with, say, some of the other builds in this video, but nonetheless, you should be able to take the monster down in relative comfort. But anyway, let's move on to the final build, which is the budget build. This is a build you can craft without any updates to the base game. With the Insect Glaive, this is just a straightforward DPS focused build. So for this build, you need the Dragon King Eye Patch Alpha, the Dobermail Beta, Kaiser Vambraces Beta, the Nergigante Coil Beta, and the Death Stench Heals Beta. I've also gone with a Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon, I'm using the Tyrannus Glaive 2, which is the Diablos weapon. This, if you do get a chance to put augmentations on it, will have 2 affinity increase augmentations on it. As for the jewels, as this is a budget based build, unfortunately you may not have access to a plethora of jewels as I do with the other builds, but if you're able to get hold of them, I would strongly recommend an Elementless jewel, Enhancer jewels, Flight jewel, Expert jewels, and if you're lucky enough, a Sharp jewel. None of these are essential to make the build work, but if you are able to get them, then it'll make life a little bit easier. Now, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 868 attack, white sharpness, minus 4% affinity, which is actually 46% affinity, should you be going for weak points, with a stamina boost, kinsect bonus, which means that you don't really have to worry too much about which kinsect you want to use. It can be down to personal preference with this build, and you'll have a decent defense against fire, but you're fairly weak to thunder. As for the skills, you'll have handicraft level 5, attack boost level 4, weakness exploit level 3, critical eye level 2, power prolonger level 2, airborne level 1, protected polish level 1, and non-elemental boost level 1. So as you can see, it is a straightforward beginner DPS build to the Insect Glaive. Of course you can augment this depending what jewels you have, so you may not have as much power prolonger or you may not have as much critical eye, but that is the beauty of Monster Hunter. You can change the builds to how you see fit. If you're looking for an alternative with this weapon as well, if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of extra raw attack in favour of having more affinity and not having to worry so much about handicraft, you can swap out the Darcblade Glaive 2 in favour of the Odogaron Insect Glaive, the Garon Rod 2. If you do this though, you can swap out the handicraft charm for whatever you wish, as well as the Death Stench heals for something else, as the Odogaron weapon doesn't need any extra handicraft whatsoever. So there we have it, those are the builds that I'd like to use for the Insect Glaive. Of course, Monster Hunter World is always being updated with new monsters and gear, which can potentially cause these builds to change and become even stronger. So if any major updates happen to any of the builds, I'll be sure to release an updated video. Remember also that almost any task in Monster Hunter World can be taken on with any weapon or gear set. You don't have to use what I use in these videos, these are just the sets that I personally like to use. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you the builds that I use for the Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.